A father, his sick daughter, and an unexpected stranger. Just as Lucas was about to lose everything, Sophia appeared before him. An offer, a risk, and a decision that would change their lives forever. Sometimes, hope comes at the most unexpected moment. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. Thank you for your support. Lucas was a 35-year-old man carrying the weight of life on his shoulders. He had willingly taken on the responsibility of being a father at a young age, but his world had been turned upside down 2 years ago by a tragedy. When he suddenly lost his wife, he was left alone with his daughter, Lily. Lily was the most valuable thing in Lucas' world, but fate dealt them another blow. The little girl was the carrier of the genetic disease that had taken her mother's life. The disease had been diagnosed early, so for now, it was being kept under control. However, this was only possible through constant doctor visits, expensive treatments, and medications. Lucas was ready to do whatever it took, but every day the obstacles in his path were growing. In the center of town, he had a small restaurant that he had run for years. This place wasn't just a job to support himself, it also gave him a reason to hold on to life. But recently, things had been getting worse. His customers had decreased, costs had risen, and bills were piling up. The restaurant's earnings were insufficient to cover Lily's treatment costs and daily needs. He had started losing sleep at night. He was going over his accounts again and again, trying to figure out how to make up the missing numbers. He didn't want to take out loans, he wanted to meet his responsibility to his daughter without relying on anyone else. But the reality was harsh. If he couldn't find a solution, he risked losing both his business and his daughter's health insurance. As the days went by, Lucas' fear and helplessness grew. But he wouldn't give up. Because he was a father. And a father would do anything for his child. Lucas took a deep breath as he opened the shutters of the restaurant, just like he always did. The cool morning air hit his face, but it wasn't enough to ease the anxiety he carried inside. To turn things around, he had started a small but effective campaign, get a cheesecake half price with a coffee. With great hope, he stuck the ad to the window and started preparing. He used to have a few employees at his restaurant, but due to rising costs, he had to fire everyone except the chef. Now, serving, cashiering, and cleaning were all on him. It was tiring, but he had no other choice. He had been trying to get the business back on track for days, but as the number of customers dropped, his hope was dwindling. By noon, the sky had turned gray, and then the rain started falling gently. As Lucas looked out the window of the restaurant, he saw a woman quickly entering. Her stylish trench coat was drenched in the rain. The woman gently closed the door behind her, hung her trench coat on the rack, and scanned the room before sitting at a table. It was obvious she didn't belong here. Her flawless bun, elegant facial features, and carefully chosen clothes showed she was just a visitor to this place. When she sat down at her table, she took a deep breath, but Lucas noticed the worry in her eyes. It seemed like there were many things running through her mind. When the woman placed her order, her voice was gentle. "Could I get a coffee?" As Lucas prepared her coffee, he paused for a moment. He wondered why she was here, what had made her so anxious and thoughtful. As he brought the coffee to her and placed it in front of her, he smiled gently. "I don't think you're from around here?" he asked. The woman smiled faintly and shook her head. "No, I'm just here for a short visit. I guess I'm a tourist." Lucas nodded understandingly. "Our town is beautiful. When the rain stops, there are some great places you can visit. I can give you a brochure if you'd like." The woman nodded politely, but focused on her coffee without saying much. As Lucas moved towards the cash register to get back to work, he noticed that the woman occasionally gazed absent-mindedly out the window. He wondered what had brought her to this town, why she was so thoughtful, but he didn't press her. After a while, the woman finished her coffee and got ready to leave. She grabbed her trench coat from the rack and hurriedly threw it over her shoulder. But just then, something happened when she reached into her pocket, her face suddenly changed. The panic was obvious. Lucas was watching her. The woman hesitated and approached the register, her eyes filled with embarrassment. "I've forgotten my wallet," she said, her voice trembling. Just as Lucas was about to say something, the woman quickly started explaining. "The company car dropped me off here, they went off for work. I think I left my wallet in the car. When they get back, I'll pay my bill, I promise." Lucas smiled gently, trying to ease her embarrassment. He spoke calmly. "It's no problem, ma'am. It's on the house. Consider it a treat from us." The woman looked at Lucas with a grateful look in her eyes. The worry in her gaze was replaced by a brief moment of relief. "Thank you so much. You're very kind." She then extended her hand and introduced herself. "I'm Sophia." Lucas accepted her handshake. "Lucas." They shared a brief but meaningful smile. The rain was still falling, but Sophia, not wasting any time, put on her trench coat and headed toward the door. Lucas, looking out the window, watched her disappear into the rain. He didn't yet know what this encounter meant, but he had a feeling Sophia wasn't just an ordinary customer. And this encounter could bring much more than he expected. Lucas continued working in the restaurant with a lot of thoughts in his mind when he suddenly realized it was time for Lily to finish school. His eyes moved to the clock, and time had passed faster than he thought. Setting aside his work, he quickly took off his apron and pinned a small handwritten note to the door, "I'll be back soon." When he closed the restaurant door and stepped outside, the rain had slowed down, and the air was still cool and gloomy. When he picked up Lily from school and returned, he was met with an unexpected sight. Sophia was standing by the restaurant door, waiting. Lucas was both surprised and smiled faintly at her being there. They opened the door and went inside. Noticing the slight embarrassment on Sophia's face, Lucas shook his head, smiled warmly, and spoke, "Please don't say you've come to pay the bill." Sophia paused slightly but then instinctively protested, "But..." Lucas raised his eyebrows playfully. "Don't you know what 'on the house' means?" Sophia tilted her head in thought for a moment, then answered with a slight smile. "It's not very common in Sweden." A brief silence was broken by both of them laughing at the same time. Lucas' laughter was genuine, while Sophia's was a little lighter but warm. At that moment, Lily turned to her father with big, curious eyes. "Dad, who's this?" Lucas smiled and picked up his little girl. "A guest who came to our town. We just met." Lily looked at Sophia for a moment, then leaned on her father's shoulder. Sophia smiled warmly at Lily. It was clear she was good with kids. Lucas turned to Sophia. "Would you like something to drink?" he asked. Sophia nodded slightly. "Sure." Lucas gently set Lily down and headed to the kitchen to prepare drinks. Sophia and Lily sat at a table in the warm atmosphere of the restaurant. Lily, with the natural curiosity of a child, was studying Sophia. Lucas came back shortly with 2 drinks, coffee for Sophia and honey milk for Lily. He set the cups on the table and sat down. However, Sophia's expression had changed. Something seemed to be bothering her, or maybe it was unsettling her. Though she tried not to show it, there was a faint absent-mindedness and inner conflict in her eyes. Lucas noticed but didn't want to press her immediately. Instead, he took a sip of his coffee with a comforting smile. "So, what brought you to this town?" he asked. Sophia paused for a moment. Her eyes drifted to the coffee in her cup. Then she slowly lifted her head and looked at Lucas. "Actually, it's a bit complicated," she said, her voice taking on a slightly different tone. Lucas sensed the uncertainty in her eyes. A feeling started to fill him that this woman hadn't come to the town as just an ordinary tourist. Lucas tried not to get caught up in the question Sophia hadn't answered, but he had a feeling Sophia was hiding something. Instead of questioning it, he was brought back to reality by his daughter's voice. "Dad, are we going to the pharmacy?" Lily asked, gently tugging at her father's arm. For a moment, Lucas seemed lost in his thoughts, but his daughter's reminder quickly brought him back to focus. "Ah, yes. We need to go today," he said with a tired smile. Sophia watched them without joining the conversation. She didn't interfere, just listened. She could tell from Lucas' tired face how hard he was trying to provide for what Lily needed. But she didn't say anything. Silently, she stood up, slung her bag over her shoulder, and softly said, "Excuse me." Lucas looked up and glanced at her. Sophia's voice was warm, but there was a strange distance in it. "Goodbye, Lucas." Lucas only nodded, while Lily waved with the innocence of a child. When Sophia walked out the door, Lucas briefly thought he wanted to learn more about her. But then, he took a deep breath and gathered his thoughts. The only thing he needed to focus on right now was his daughter. Months later, time had flown by quickly, and everything had become harder for Lucas. The restaurant's business had fallen even more, bills had piled up, and the costs of medications and treatments had become a heavy burden. No matter how hard he tried, he realized he couldn't hold on any longer in the face of the economic conditions. Finally, he made a tough decision. He would sell the restaurant. He would use the money for Lily's treatment and start working as a factory laborer. The only important thing was his daughter's health. Even though he hated to lose the small restaurant he loved so much, he had no other choice. He put up a big sign on the window in bold letters, "For sale." He also posted ads online, hoping he could find a buyer quickly. There was nothing else he could do but wait. And then, one day, the phone rang. Lucas looked at the number. It was an unfamiliar one. With a strange feeling, he answered the phone. "Hello." A familiar woman's voice came from the other end. "Hello, Lucas." Lucas' eyes narrowed slightly. He knew that voice. "Sophia?" he asked, in shock. The woman on the other end responded with a tone that seemed to be smiling faintly. "I saw your restaurant ad. We need to talk." Lucas looked at Sophia sitting across from him in surprise. Seeing her here was an unexpected surprise. When she entered the restaurant, she smiled and said, "Hello, Lucas," with a warm voice, though there was a subtle seriousness in it. When they moved to a table, Lucas quickly prepared and brought a coffee. He hadn't asked the questions in his mind yet, but the shock on his face said everything. "How are you?" Sophia asked, carefully observing him. Lucas shook his head and sighed as he placed the coffee cup on the table. "I'm shocked," he said honestly. Then he got straight to the point. "Do you want to buy my restaurant?" His exhaustion, hopelessness, and depletion were evident on his face. Like everything he had faced recently, he thought this was just another business offer. But Sophia, with a slight smile on her lips, shook her head. "No, Lucas," she said gently. "I want to save the restaurant." When Lucas heard those words, he instinctively tensed up. He wasn't one to accept help. Throughout his life, he had tried to do everything on his own, and had learned that when you fall, you shouldn't reach out to others. But he didn't immediately reject it. First, he wanted to fully understand what she was saying. Sophia opened her bag and took out a few files and brochures, carefully placing them on the table. When Lucas glanced at the titles on the documents, he noticed they were related to a health institution from Sweden. "I'm here for business," Sophia said, with a slight formality in her voice. "I'm the CEO of an education and research hospital in Sweden. I run a high-tech hospital that's unlike any other in the world." Lucas furrowed his brow. Now everything was becoming clear. It was obvious that Sophia hadn't come to this town as a tourist. But what he was most curious about was how she knew about his situation, Lily's illness. Sophia, sensing the questions in Lucas's mind, continued without hesitation. "I came back just to say thank you," she said, her voice softening. I have to admit, a part of me wanted to see you again. But when I saw Lily, I thought you were married. Lucas tilted his head slightly. Sophia's voice wavered, filled with complex emotions. Then when you went to get coffee, she continued, her gaze shifting to the files on the table, Lily told me her mother had passed away. She said, my mom was sick, and I have the same disease. I stayed silent to avoid upsetting you. Lucas's heart tightened. A simple sentence from his daughter had made Sophia look at him with pitying eyes. But there was more to it. Through our work, we have access to hospital databases, Sophia said, pausing for a moment. I saw Lily's records. That's when I understood better what kind of father you are and what you're struggling with. Lucas leaned slightly forward, resting his chin in his hand. He felt both shock and a little discomfort. Sophia, looking directly into his eyes, continued. I know I've invaded your privacy, and if you're upset about that, I truly apologize. But I felt like there was something I could do. Sophia was trying to gauge the man's reaction. She was speaking quickly, almost as if she feared a possible rejection. Lucas noticed her anxiety and raised his hand slightly, interrupting her. Sophia, this isn't a court, he said, his voice tired but understanding. Lily's condition isn't a secret. I'm listening. Thank you. But I still don't understand anything. What are you offering? Sophia took a deep breath. She had now reached the most important point she needed to make. Sophia took a deep breath, seeing the exhaustion and surprise on Lucas's face. She knew that continuing without gaining his trust would be difficult, so she placed her hand on the table and leaned slightly forward. Lucas, I'm not making you an offer. I'm offering you a solution. Lucas crossed his arms over his chest and squinted as he carefully examined Sophia. What kind of solution? He asked, his tone still cautious. Sophia opened the files she had brought with her and pulled out several documents, placing them in front of Lucas. The pages were filled with complex medical terms and research results. Our hospital is one of the most advanced research and treatment centers in the world for rare genetic diseases. Lily's condition is in our area of expertise, and we have a much more effective experimental treatment than the standard methods. Lucas furrowed his brow. Experimental? Sophia quickly nodded. Yes, but this experimental treatment was approved 5 years ago and is currently clinically proven with a very high success rate. Most of our patients have either fully recovered or the progression of the disease has been stopped. Lucas placed his hands on the table, feeling dizzy. While a spark of hope flickered inside him, at the same time, he thought this offer was too good to be true. What about the cost? He asked, his voice shaky. How will I afford this? Sophia smiled lightly. Here's the important part, Lucas. You won't have to pay for it. We can treat Lily completely for free at our hospital. Lily is a perfect candidate for our new research program. Lucas leaned back, almost as if he couldn't breathe. So, you can save Lily's life? Sophia tilted her head slightly. If Lily undergoes treatment, she'll most likely live a long and healthy life. The whole process will be monitored by the best doctors. I want you to know this isn't a favor, it's just that our capacity gives Lily a chance. Lucas took a deep breath, running his fingers through his hair as he lowered his head. The storm inside him wasn't settling. It felt like a miracle, but also terrifying. And you? Why are you doing this? Just for a thank you? Sophia smiled lightly, but this time there was a touch of melancholy in her expression. I told you when I saw Lily, I felt something, right? When I was a child, I had a rare disease, but my family did everything to find the treatment I needed. I survived because someone, just like I want to do now, gave me a chance. I know that if Lily were in my place, you would do everything for her. So, if you'll allow me, I want to do everything I can. Lucas looked into Sophia's eyes. What he saw was sincerity. There were no hidden motives, no agenda. With a fragile but growing hope inside him, he slowly nodded. "I'd do anything for Lily to live." Sophia smiled lightly. "Then, shall we begin?" Sophia took a deep breath, looking directly into Lucas's eyes. "Lucas, if you allow me, I want to take Lily to Sweden," she said, her voice soft but determined. Lucas held his breath for a moment, his heart racing. "What do you mean?" Sophia opened one of the files in front of her and turned it towards Lucas. Inside were detailed medical reports and treatment plans. "This is an experimental treatment. But the success rate is very high. Lily's condition is stable right now, but this treatment can completely stop the progression of the disease and even lead her to a healthy future. If we act now, we have a very big chance." As Lucas went through the documents, his hands trembled slightly. Questions were racing through his mind. This could be a miracle. But how long will it take, he asked. Sophia answered directly. "At least a month." Lucas lowered his head. He was fighting an inner battle. "It's really hard for me to go, Sophia. Visa processes will take time, I can't just leave my job here, plus there's accommodation, expenses." Sophia smiled lightly. "Don't think about any of that. Lily's entire expenses will be covered. Her accommodation, treatment, everything is arranged. For you, we don't have time, because the visa process will take too long. Lily needs to start treatment immediately." Lucas swallowed hard. His fatherly instinct was urging him to pull back. Leaving Lily, when she was still a small child, with someone else, especially in another country. It was such a big step. Sophia noticed his hesitation. She tightened her grip on the edge of the table with her hands and looked him in the eyes. "Lucas, don't see this as a business offer. I'm just offering you an option. But the decision is yours. You understand me, right?" Lucas raised his head, a storm brewing in his eyes. "Can I trust you with Lily?" That was the real question. Sophia didn't look away, her voice calm and sincere. "Yes, you can. I want what's best for Lily, just like you. And I'm saying this not just as a doctor, but as a human being." Lucas took a deep breath. There was both fear and hope inside him. His daughter's life was in their hands, but he had to make the right decision. Lucas couldn't immediately accept Sophia's offer. Sending his daughter to another country was a huge decision, and he couldn't make it alone. So, he decided to go to the hospital to talk to the doctor who was taking care of Lily. The doctor mentioned that he had heard Sophia's hospital was a world-renowned research center. When Lucas handed over the documents Sophia had given him, the doctor examined them carefully and remained silent for a long time. Finally, he took a deep breath and spoke, "Lucas, this hospital is one of the best in its field. If you have the chance to take Lily there, you should give her this opportunity. The disease is under control right now, but here, we can only continue the current treatment. But there's a chance she could even fully recover." Lucas saw the sincerity in the doctor's eyes. There was a deep conflict within him, but the doctor's words were important. After leaving the hospital, he decided to talk to Lily. He sat her down in front of him, knelt down to her level, and looked into her eyes. "Sweetheart, I need to tell you something," he said, his voice soft but heavy with emotion. Lily tilted her head and started listening. Lucas gently stroked her hair. "There's a place, in Sweden. It's very big, very beautiful, and the doctors there can treat your disease better. If you want, you can go there for a while and get better." Lily's eyes widened. "Will you come with me?" she asked innocently. Lucas paused for a moment but then spoke honestly. "No, sweetheart. I'll stay here. But I'll call you every day, and I'll always be waiting for you." Lily thought for a moment, then wrapped her small arms around her father and hugged him. "If you want me to get better, I'll go, Dad." Lucas' eyes filled with tears, but he tried to stay strong. He saw once again how brave his little girl was. The next morning, when Sophia came to pick up Lily, a private jet was ready. Lucas went with them to the airport, holding Lily one last time and hugging her tightly. "I love you so much, sweetheart. I promise, everything will be okay," he said, his voice trembling slightly. Lily held her father's face in her small hands and smiled at him. "I love you too, Dad. I'll miss you." Lucas handed Lily over to Sophia. Sophia gently held Lily's hand and said, "I'll protect her like my own eyes." As Lucas watched the plane take off, he felt an indescribable emptiness inside. But he knew he was doing what was best for Lily. While Lucas tried to adjust to Lily's absence, he continued running the restaurant. Every day he woke up to the same routine, went to the kitchen, and served customers. But the emptiness inside him grew every day. The financial struggles were endless. Lily's treatment costs were covered by Sophia, but the same didn't apply to his own life. The restaurant was still struggling, expenses were rising, and customers were dwindling. Sometimes, he wondered if he could give her a better life when she returned. But as a father, there was only one thing he had to do: endure. He had to endure, no matter what, to see Lily get better. Lucas video called Lily every day, seeing how her eyes had become brighter and how color had returned to her cheeks. His little girl was now more energetic, more alive. Every day, Sophia also called him, providing detailed updates about her treatment. For the first time, Lucas truly felt hope. But that day, while he was working in the restaurant, unaware of anything, he heard the door open. When he looked up, he froze at the sight before him. At the door stood Lily and Sophia. Lily, with a huge smile on her face, ran toward her father. "Dad!" Lucas stood still in shock, his heart pounding as if it was about to jump out of his chest. When Lily quickly hugged him, only then did he realize that everything was real. He wrapped his arms tightly around his daughter and buried his face in her hair. "Lily!" His voice trembled. Lily looked up at him with a huge smile. "Dad, I'm better," she said with excitement. At that moment, Lucas couldn't hold back his tears. The knot in his throat loosened, and all the emotions inside him were released while his daughter was still in his arms. Sophia stood to the side, watching them with a warm glow in her eyes. Then she walked up to Lucas and smiled gently. "We wanted to surprise you." Lucas, with tears in his eyes, looked at Sophia. His face was full of gratitude. Sophia gently placed her hand on Lucas's arm and whispered, "Thank you for trusting me." Lucas swallowed hard and replied, "Thank you for making her better." In that moment, the bond between them was no longer just about a fight for Lily's well-being. They both felt it. Without realizing it, Lucas pulled Sophia toward him and hugged her tightly. And that feeling. It didn't feel foreign to him at all. The joyful laughter of Lily echoed through the garden of the restaurant. The little girl was running and playing on the grass, enjoying the soft spring breeze. Lucas and Sophia were sitting on the porch, watching her. Lucas sighed without taking his eyes off his daughter. "I'm so grateful, Sophia. I can't find the words." Sophia tilted her head slightly and smiled at him. "What matters is that Lily is better, Lucas. Nothing else matters." Lucas turned to Sophia and looked at her seriously. "But, there's something else, isn't there?" he asked, a slight worry appearing inside him. Sophia didn't look away, slowly pulling an envelope from her pocket and handing it to Lucas. From the envelope, a check written by the hospital was revealed. The amount was so large that Lucas's eyes widened in shock. "What is this?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Sophia explained in a soft voice. "Thanks to Lily and your trust, we were able to develop this experimental treatment. Lily's treatment didn't just benefit her, it also opened doors for other children. The hospital paid you because you took this risk and trusted us. Lucas looked again at the numbers on the check. This money could change his life. Knowing his daughter was healed was already priceless, but now he wouldn't have to sell his restaurant. He could provide a good future for Lily and make sure she never lacked anything. He slowly looked up and met Sophia's eyes. It's all thanks to you. Sophia gently shook her head. No, Lucas. If it wasn't for your love, courage, and faith, none of this would have been possible. Unable to control all the emotions inside him, Lucas pulled Sophia close and hugged her tightly. In that moment, words slipped from his lips without him realizing it. Don't go. Sophia froze in his arms. Her eyes suddenly filled with tears. Her voice carried a bittersweet sadness and hope. Our story shouldn't end. I knew it, she whispered. Lucas slowly nodded. Yes. Sophia took a deep breath. Actually, there's an offer. She smiled lightly. They've given me a project to bring the treatment from Sweden here. If you want, we can stay here. We can work together. Lucas looked into Sophia's eyes. He knew all the answers inside him. Don't go again, he repeated. A single tear fell from Sophia's eye, but this time, it was out of happiness. Lucas realized that the woman he had fallen in love with at first sight had given him his life back. She hadn't just healed Lily, she had also given Lucas hope to live again. Years later Lucas, Sophia, and Lily had become a family. As Lily grew, she no longer remembered her mother but instead had Sophia by her side. Lucas and Sophia brought the treatment project to life and touched other lives. And whenever they sat in the restaurant's garden, laughing together, Lucas would look at Sophia and remember how right he had been to make that decision. Their story had never ended. Because they had given each other life. And life was most meaningful when shared together. This story was full of hope and second chances. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. Thank you for your support.